Hello, my name is Pastor Kevin Robertson, and welcome to the podcast. It's simply titled, This Is My Story. Now, one thing that I really wanted to do here is I do a lot of weddings. And my first wedding was in 1989. And in fact, they are still married. But everyone has a story. And so I just wanted to share with you guys this story because I did their wedding, Hannah and Joel Pelling, 15 years ago. So is it still on? Is it for better, for worse? Is it still going good? Do they still love each other? Just all that stuff out there. So let me introduce you. This is Hannah Pelling. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you, Kevin.
To the podcast. Now tell me, how did we meet? How did you find Marina Church? Because you live in Washington State now, right?
I do. So at the time, I lived in Los Angeles and I lived in Redondo Beach. And I had already met Joel, my husband, of 15 years. And
were you engaged then?
No.
Okay.
No, we were not. There's a certain person that actually encouraged us to get engaged.
Really?
That was you.
Really? God, you know, the thing is, it's funny. Okay. Now, why did I encourage you? Or how did I encourage you? Or you remember that?
I think it was, we basically knew, okay, this was the situation.
Okay.
We knew that we wanted to be together forever.
Right.
And he needed to take a contract job in New York. And I was in Los Angeles. And you were like, I think we were talking to you on the phone one day. And you were like, you know what? You guys just need to get engaged and get married. And then you'll be together. You know, and I was like,
now I do remember saying something like that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Because it's basically, it's like, what do we do about this relationship? Because I'm moving here so yeah, it just made sense to me. Because you guys were in love with each other at that time.
We were, yeah. We still are.
Yeah, that's good. I just want to do a lead in, kind of suspense to see if you're actually married. And so I had the privilege. So do you remember when he proposed to you?
I do.
Okay. And when was that? Or how was that?
So he basically recreated our first date. Wow. So a little bit of backstory is that when I met Joel, I met him on Match.com. So it's a dating website. And it was 17 years ago now.
Okay.
Nobody had heard of dating websites and nobody did it. And when I mentioned to anyone that I was doing it, they were like, what are you doing? Like, this is not safe. Like, I don't know where you came up with this. Not a good idea.
Yeah.
And my friends were seriously worried about me.
Yeah.
Because I'm from Spokane, Washington,
right.
Where that's where your dad is.
Yeah. And it's just an innocent place. Like, naiveness is encouraged there.
Right. 500,000 people.
Yeah.
And LA at the time, there's 17 million. And they're thinking, oh my gosh, there's going to be a psycho killer that's going to find you and get you through this website. So I treated first of all, I hardly talked to anyone because there was a lot of shady people on there. But I finally ended up talking to Joel on the phone, and then we decided that we would meet. So I thought it would be best if we met at Starbucks at a public place in Hermosa Beach.
Okay. Which that would be, yes.
Yes. So I left my roommate with a note I'm going to meet Joel Pelly. This is his email address. This is everything I have on this guy.
Yeah.
In case I don't return.
That's too funny. And then you just fell in love right then. No,
I did. No, I did.
You did.
But this is the funny part is that he had the best profile. He had so much depth that really showed who he was, and that's one of the ways that we connected. So I showed up at Starbucks a little bit early, and I was like, I'm just gonna, get us a couple drinks while I'm standing here doing nothing. And this guy walks in, and I was like, who is this guy? this guy, like, he felt like home to me, and
Oh,
he was
really?
cute. And I was thinking, how do I get out of this being Joel?
That's fun. And in fact, it was Joel, right?
And it was Joel.
Okay. And then I think this is where I get frustrated because I get so connected to people like yourself. And then they go, oh, by the way, yeah, you've been part of our lives, but now we're moving.
Mm-hmm.
And so you guys moved to Washington
Mm-hmm.
area. But the cool thing is that you simply asked me to do your wedding.
Right.
And so you got married how long after that first date?
After that first date, I think it was a year and a half,
Okay.
almost 2 years.
Okay. That's good. And so you could see me, you guys are embraced with each other. And here I'm just feeling totally awkward at that time. Because that's the worst part of my job is when I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm the third stool here and I don't know how to look. So I just look down at my book,
I
right?
think you look great.
Thank you. And so that was in 2005, right?
Correct.
Okay. Then Oliver
Oliver.
came.
Yes. And
Okay.
so um we were married. I was 28 when we got married.
Right.
And then I was 30, and one day I was giving Joel a hug, and I was like, "You smell like babies." He was like, "What?" No, I'm like, "I'm serious. You totally smell like babies."
Okay.
And he just started smelling like babies. And so that's when we decided that maybe it was time to have kids.
Yeah. Because you're encouraged, you're looking at Joel as he's a baby. And so then you called me because I just happened to um, travel to Spokane every once in a while. And you said, do you mind um, dedicating him?
Mm-hmm.
And so you got the opportunity, Free Methodist Church, which is part of our denomination up in Spokane. And in the back of the sanctuary, we did this dedication,
Yep.
right, with Olivier. And so I was looking at myself, at this picture, because you just sent me this picture yesterday,
Yep.
because it came up on your, it was 11 years ago or something.
12 years, yes.
12 years ago, 2 days ago, it came up. So I was looking at that shirt and I go, where did I get that shirt? Why am I wearing that shirt? And the thing is, you have to understand, I'm going to say the same thing about this shirt 12 years from now. I'm going, what were you thinking, Kevin? And I go, I don't know. It was real popular then.
It was. You wore a lot of these shirts, and I actually really liked these shirts, to be honest. I remember at church thinking, I really like that shirt.
Well, good. So now the thing is, this is what I want to get into, because just recently, when I had my brain surgery, you just DM'd me, which I like, direct message, because I use the initials because I'm cool. And you told me I just had brain surgery as well. And I was going, Hannah had brain surgery. So let's go back about 8-9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And because in the marriage, you would think, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to buy this, everything's going to be great. Oliver came and stuff like that. Then you started getting what? What started happening like 8 or 9 years ago?
Well, it was interesting because so I had Oliver when I was 30.
Okay.
And the first 5 years of Oliver's life, Joel traveled a ton for work.
Okay.
So for the most part, his schedule was 3 weeks in China, 1 week home. 3 weeks in China, 1 week
Wow.
home.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So he traveled a ton. And so, it was a lot of just me and Oliver time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was when Oliver was about 3 years old. So I was about 33. And right now I'm 43. Joel had to remind me the other day. I can never remember. I don't know.
You just say I'm in my 40s. How's
I'm in
that?
my 40s.
Yeah.
Um,
49,
and
41, I don't care. It's somewhere in between.
somewhere in there. I'm alive. I made it.
That's true.
um, and I remember I just started having a lot of health issues. Like I started feeling sick a lot, like sick to my stomach, getting bad headaches, feeling run down. It seemed like I was always getting a cold. Like if anybody was around me and I was sick, no matter how well I washed my hands or anything, I would get it. I would get it twice as bad and I would
Wow.
get it twice as long.
Wow.
And so I was just always sick. And then um, slowly, all of these things started happening. I started having all these symptoms over the years. Like slowly, I started getting, high blood pressure and high cholesterol and pre-diabetes. And I would gain 30 pounds like that. I mean, like,
Hmm.
and not anything even worth gaining 30 pounds for. Like, I should have enjoyed that, right? Like some cakes and, you
You
know,
would think so.
but no, just gained it. And then I would lose 30 pounds like that, easy if I wanted to, when I could,
Right.
when it would finally decide to come off, I could just lose it.
Right.
And
Did you feel like okay, people were judging you when you went up those 30 pounds and you're going, yeah, I'm not a big eater here. You know, it's almost to the point like with our bodies, when we gain weight, we go, our society kind of shames us in a
right.
sense. Did you feel that when you went up to 30 pounds, or were you just going, oh,
I feel like I felt that in my marriage
okay.
because I don't want to feel unattractive
Right,
to
right.
Joel. Um, I have a lot of confidence, so I wasn't really so
Okay.
concerned about other people, clothes. I mean, it's
Right.
just uncomfortable being heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
Clothes they fit weird. They tug at certain places. Um, so 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 that was hard. That was
Yeah.
hard because I didn't live a lifestyle that made sense for the weight or for any of these things that were
Mm.
happening. I started to get to the point where I was just like hot all the time, and like sweating. Like I'd go from the kitchen
Uh-huh.
to the bathroom to somewhere else, and I'd be like dripping sweat, like I had a serious workout,
Right.
and like no energy at all. Like really hard to go on a hike. I had like I think it was, I don't know, it was like 5 or 6 years ago now. I was in a car accident and my back would never heal. And they could never figure out, like, why isn't it healing?
Right.
Doing everything right. And so it's just like everything was going wrong. It didn't make sense.
Right.
And when you go to the doctor, you feel like you're a hypochondriac, right?
Oh,
And I thought,
absolutely.
oh, it's because I've gained all this weight, right? So I
Right.
have all these health problems because I gained weight. It's my fault,
Right.
even though it didn't make sense how I gained the weight that fast.
Right.
Um, and so personally, me, when I go to the doctor, I don't want to be like, I have this and I have this and I have this. And 20 things later, they're like, yeah,
Yeah, you could now you're starting to feel totally judged by the doctor.
right,
And I'm the same way when I go to the doctor, you know, they ask me what's your weight, and I go, and I'll just say, 15 pounds lighter than I really am.
right,
No, don't put me on that scale, please. I just lied.
right.
So okay, so I totally get that. So when you were going to the doctor, when did you find out what you had? How did you know? Like, okay,
Well, what's interesting
okay,
is they always tell you when you have something medical going on, never Google it, right? Because you're going to find out all these horrible things and you're going to think you're going to die the next day. So, of course, I Googled it and Cushing's disease came up.
really?
And I was like, I have all these things. And there was two things that really stood out was that when I gained my weight, I
Mm-hmm.
gained it all in my stomach.
Okay.
So like people, oh, that was the other thing. People would think I was pregnant.
That's the thing is never go to someone and say, "Are you pregnant?" Note to yourself, don't
Oh,
do it. That's the
yeah.
worst,
So
isn't
that
it?
was, I had some funny stories with that, but that's for another time.
I'm,
And the other giveaway kind of
I'm
with Cushing,
sorry.
like if you say there's, I say three things, everything's wrong with you.
Right.
You have most of your weight in your stomach, and then kind of at the back of your neck here. I don't think you can see it on video, but
Okay.
you kind of get a hump.
Yeah.
It's a hump of fat.
Really.
And I always thought, okay, well, you gain weight, you gain fat in different places. It's
Right.
not like you can distribute where you'd like it.
Right. But
Um,
not up here in the back of the shoulders. You
right,
wouldn't think.
right. Like a good hump. And I had the hump, I had the stomach, and I had all these things wrong with me. And so I printed it out, and I remember I handed it to my naturopath,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, I wonder, do you think maybe I have this?
Mm-hmm.
And I think she looked at it. I don't think she even completely took it out of my hand.
Right.
And she handed it back, and she's like, you don't have that. And I
Oh,
was like, okay. I mean, I'm not the expert, right? Because
yeah.
it's rare. It's one
Yeah.
in a million.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Now, okay. So let's say it's 1 in a million. So basically, the people that are listening going, what's Cushing disease?
Okay, yes.
So what is the Cushing disease? And you do have it, right?
A second time.
Yeah. Well, let's stick to the first time now.
Okay.
So the Cushing disease is I'm sorry. Okay, this journey is still on the process here, this journey that you're doing. So you had Cushing disease. So what is Cushing disease?
So Cushing's disease, I'm going to just make it super simple,
Okay.
right?
Thank you.
Is when your body makes, the typical situation is your body makes too much cortisol
Okay.
for too long of a time. And cortisol is your fight or flight, right? It's your, I panic or I flee, I run. It's
Right.
your, when your adrenals get going and you're all amped up, right?
Right.
And so what happens is your body's producing way too much cortisol. In my
Hmm.
case, I was making 6 times the amount I should have been.
Okay.
And what happens is the cortisol slowly starts to destroy your cells in your body. So at the cellular level, your in my case, it was my pituitary gland that had two benign or non-cancerous tumors on it, right?
Okay. Right.
Those tumors, because your pituitary gland is like grand central station for all the hormones and endocrine in your body.
Okay. So the pituitary. See, I'm trying to sound intelligent here. That gland
Yep.
it's in your brain,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
And I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but anyway, so they're not cancerous, but they're producing all kinds of craziness. Okay.
Right.
Uh,
They're causing my body to put out way too much cortisol.
Okay.
And so what happens is everything is impacted, right? All your organs. So that explains my blood pressure, my cholesterol, pre-diabetes. At one point, I literally counted 30 bruises on my body.
Wow.
So your skin gets really fragile.
Wow.
It impacts your eyes. Like there'd be a month where I needed glasses, and then like I didn't need glasses anymore. It was like I was cured. My hair would thin. You know, my bones, right? I have what's it called? Mild osteopenia, which is just before osteoporosis.
Okay.
So really, my bones are very fragile now.
Right.
You don't heal well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's literally your muscles. Oh, it causes extreme muscle fatigue and weakness.
Okay.
And so basically, if you don't treat this, and the cortisol is attacking every cell in your body, so all these things that are important,
Mm-hmm.
eventually you'll die, right?
Right.
Eventually, my muscles won't hold me up anymore. My heart won't be able to keep going, all of those
Okay.
things. So simply stated, that's what it is.
So when you were diagnosed with Cushing disease, did you Google it again and say, here are the effects? Okay.
I
So
did.
obviously that would freak you out. Like, okay, I'm going to die here if this is. So the surgeon or the doctor eventually said, oh, let's do brain surgery.
Hmm.
Now, the thing is, do you remember sitting there with Joel and going, look, the doctor just recommended them to remove these out of my brain?
I do.
Okay. How did he respond?
Joel?
Yeah.
Um, he was actually pretty quiet, which
Okay.
he is not a quiet person. He asks a lot of questions.
Okay.
And I found out later on, like
Mhm.
a couple weeks or a month later,
Right.
he didn't realize that they were not cancerous. He thought I
Oh,
had
really?
cancerous tumors in my head.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, thinking back, like for the last month, you thought I had cancer.
Yeah.
And then thinking about like how he was behaving, and none of it made sense. It was just weird. So
Right.
I
But
think
he
he
was
was a
probably
little shocked.
scared that he was going to lose you too.
I would hope so.
Well, yeah, I would. Maybe for selfish reason, like how am I going to raise Oliver,
Right, 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 right.
and stuff like that. I'm sure that 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 would it would have came up with me.
Right.
So this is what I like because on our pre-interview, because I had brain surgery too,
Hmm.
and that's why you sent a DM to me and said, "Look, this is my brain surgery," which I was looking for an encouragement. You weren't encouraging to me at all in this surgery thing, and we'll get later on that because I was thinking if I was thinking, okay, this is horrible, then Hannah Pelling said, "Oh yeah, it gets worse." That's how I was reading your direct message. So let me lead into this. So the doctor told you, "Hey, we're just gonna do the brain surgery, and you'll be fine." Do you remember how you were telling me they kind of pictured this rosy picture for you to be healed? You told me you'll be back to work in 3 weeks.
Yes. Yes. So for me, because it took them 8 years to diagnose it,
Right.
um, everything was going wrong. Everything was really, really bad.
Okay.
I could hardly function. Like I didn't even have the energy to pick a shirt where you like go through your hanging clothes and
Right.
through four things. I'd have to take a break.
Right.
Like like my body was just done. And
Right.
so when they said, "Hey, you have Cushing's, it addresses all these things. We're going to see if you have a tumor because now we need to find out." They did the cortisol tests, found it
Right.
high. Now we need to find the tumors. They did the MRI, two
Right.
tumors.
Yeah.
I was like, great, let's get this done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
I can heal, I can get on with my life.
I
I'm
can.
type A,
Yeah.
super, yeah,
It's like me. When you get the brain surgery, you're not going to shake. And I'm going, oh my goodness, I've been fighting this for 50 years, and so this is cool. So so this is Hannah. This is cracking me up. If anyone's considering brain surgery, please stop here because you're not going to get much hope. So you went into and had the brain surgery done,
uh-huh,
right?
yep,
And so your recovery was horrendous.
right.
Tell me about, and you're still recovering. Now, first of all, you had the surgery when?
February 2019. So in this February, so in a few months, it'll be 2 years.
Okay, 2 years. Okay.
Yes.
So, but tell me about, because you were saying that your recovery was difficult,
Yeah.
to say the least. And why was it so difficult?
Well, what they told me was that, you know, 2 to 4 weeks you'll be, up. being able to go back to work,
Right.
resuming your life. It will take you probably a year to 2 years for everything to, all those cells to fix themselves, right?
Okay.
But you'll be back, life will be
Okay.
resumed in
Yeah.
4 weeks, worst case. And they also told me, this is a terrible, terrible disease. This is the worst you're ever going to feel in your life as the recovery. And so I was like, okay,
Uh,
but what does that mean? Like, what does that look like? And I don't know if it's because they really don't know
Right.
truly.
Because they never had it themselves.
Right.
Right.
Or it's so horrendous that they don't want you to know. Because I, um, yeah, I had all these plans, and I basically sat in the same recliner for probably 3 months. I could hardly move.
Right.
What happens is your body gets addicted to that level of cortisol.
Okay.
And so it's the same type of addiction as if it was alcohol or heroin
Oh,
or
really?
anything like that.
Okay.
And so you literally go through withdrawal from the cortisol. So it's the same as withdrawal from heroin or anything
Right.
else. So because I was making so much,
Mhm.
and the dose that they started, because the minute they remove the tumors, you stop making cortisol,
Right.
but you have to have it to live. So they supplement with pills.
Right. Okay.
But the dose that they started me at was so low compared to what I was used to,
Mm-hmm.
that I remember I didn't watch TV, I didn't read, I didn't
Right.
listen to music. I just laid there and just, it was literally minute by minute. I just tried to get through because everything hurt. Every joint, muscle, bone, piece of skin, like everything. It was like beyond the worst
Right.
flu you could ever have. And I couldn't think.
Right.
Somebody would say something, and like, I don't know, look at that wall, it's the color yellow. And I would have no idea what they said. I couldn't remember it.
Right.
If they asked me to do something, I couldn't think about how to do it.
Right. And how long did this last? How long did this last for?
The
Or is it
withdrawal lasted, well, all the symptoms lasted for about a year and a half, because that's how long it took me to wean down off of the
wow?
cortisol.
See, and let me tell you, I was really confused 3 weeks after my brain surgery. I couldn't think, I couldn't talk. So Hannah says, "Hey, look, I had brain surgery." So I direct message and I said, "Hey, Hannah, how long will this last?" And you said, "And a year and a half." And I was going, "Oh, let me just shoot myself now," and thank goodness it didn't. So let me just see, because this fascinates me, because a person that had brain surgeries himself. So did it get to a point where you were looking at Joel or looking at Oliver and just saying, "I'm sorry, I can't be what you need now."
Mm-hmm.
And again, because we talked before on our pre-interview, I remember you have control issues because you were very methodical on a lot of stuff that you did. So now all your control is gone. I have no control over my mind. I have no control over my body. I have no control over anything.
Right.
And so did you get to the point of just saying, you know what? Life sucks now, and I don't see it getting any better. Did you get to the point where you just so discouraged, or did the Lord just lift you up and you're happy, happy, happy? Or
I mean, I feel like if I was listening to myself, I wouldn't believe this.
uh
But the fact is, didn't I didn't get discouraged,
okay, see that?
because I knew I had to get through this and then I would heal.
Right,
And I I had the mindset of I just have to put my head down and just push through and just do it.
Right.
And, you know, I prayed all the time.
Right.
I wasn't angry with God. I wasn't mad at anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe part of it because I was in such bad shape and so miserable that
Right.
I was in like computer safe mode, just minimal, like,
Right.
and I remember I told you before, I had small goals, like I'm going to make it through the next 5 minutes.
Yeah. And that's as small as you can get.
Right. And then then my goals were like, okay, I'm going to make it until the next time I have to use the restroom. And then my goals would change to I can make it to the next meal,
Yeah.
until I just got through it. And I think, well, I also feel like it was maybe a month or two into it.
Mm.
I really feel like I got a word from God. And what I heard was that um I wasn't going through this for me. Like this wasn't a big, Hannah, you need to learn some serious lessons with this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I mean, I have a lot of things to learn. I'm not saying that. But in this case,
Yeah.
his God was basically saying, this isn't for you, this is for others. And I chose you because you're strong enough to get through it. Which is like, it's cool, but it's like,
Yeah, but did you go? No, God, let's take it back. Really,
right,
I'm not that good. Really,
right, like,
I
I don't want to be that strong. No, thank
no,
you.
why do I want to be an inspiration to anyone right now? Everyone loves inspirational stories. Nobody wants to be one, right?
Right.
So, so I was like, yeah, give it to someone else.
Right.
Okay. So, and the thing is, what I think you and I were talking on the pre-interview too, is some people like in your church or close to you kind of pulled away in a sense because
Mm-hmm.
it's almost to the point where, oh, Hannah, it makes me uncomfortable. So not only that you're going through this, but you got friends that are actually pulling away from you as well. And I don't understand how that works, but how did that work?
Um, so kind of this goes a little bit hand in hand with a question you asked just now, but I think I didn't answer it, is that um I had to learn how to really prioritize, which
Okay,
means most things are not important. Like
right.
95% of the things that we think are important are not.
You're not, which makes that's a good lesson right there.
Yeah. And so I just had to let go of certain things, because I couldn't do them and I wasn't going to be constantly bugging Joel and Oliver to help with 100 things that
Yeah,
hindsight, they don't matter. Right.
right.
Um, and I had to learn how to ask for help. And I really grew up, you know, learning that I shouldn't ask for help, that I should be able to handle things on my own. And so that was really, really tough. And it's not because of ego. It's
Right,
because of not wanting to inconvenience others.
right.
And so it was really a lot for me to have to call someone. I remember, a friend, and say, "Hey, I know you're going to Costco. There's like no way I could go to Costco. That would be like a dream come true. Is there
Right,
any way that you could pick up, I don't even know. I think she would get me uh the squeezy apple sauces and toilet paper,
right.
right? And I just felt like, oh, I'm such a inconvenience, it's such a hassle, all those things. But she was great and she happily did it. And it taught me it it taught me that asking for help can allow other people to bless you and to
Absolutely.
feel like they're a blessing to you.
Absolutely. And the thing is, I think when we were talking on our pre-interview, your dad even said, "Look, Hannah, nobody wants to hear this. when you were growing up, where no one wants to
Right.
be bothered. So
Right.
you were kind of brought up in a way that you're just going, I don't want to be bothered to anyone. I don't want to be. So it's almost to the point you had to break this thing in you to say, yes, I need to ask for help
Right.
and do this. So that
Right.
was a huge step for you, Hannah.
Right.
Um,
And so in that, I was lucky or blessed because the couple of people I had helping me with things like that were
right.
just generous and happy to help,
Mhm.
right? Um, and Joel and Oliver, I don't even know how they are such good sports. I'm a terrible nurse. If you're sick, you don't want me around. After 2 hours, I'm like over it. It's true. It's bad.
That's funny.
But I mean, they were always like, they never once acted put out or annoyed or like I was an inconvenience. And so that really deepened my relationship, I think, with Joel.
Right.
But then I had the experience on the other hand where it's Joel and Oliver and myself recently.
Yeah. See, you like how I put the picture in when you're talking about someone?
Yeah,
See, I know how to
you're
do
good.
this.
You're
Connect
very
on it.
good. And I remember so for me, I really need to be around people.
Right.
And I feel lonely very easily.
Hmm.
And I was part of this small group,
Hmm.
and it was actually a small church group.
Right.
And they were like, oh, what do you need? How can we help you? And I said, if you could just reach out to me like once a week,
Right.
just say, thinking about you.
And this is what's interesting because you're right in that. How can we help you? And you're saying specifically, this is what I need, and it's almost like I'm not asking too much, right? I just here call me and just say. You almost gave them a script.
I did. I did.
A script, like trust me, if any pastor could get a script and know exactly what they need, it would be perfect. And then you know what to expect. I know what to expect. So you gave these people these scripts. Okay,
Right.
go ahead. I'm sorry. I
Right.
just
And so nothing. I heard nothing. And I'm like,
sorry. Ann.
um,
Okay.
okay. And so the next week I saw them because I saw them every single week.
Right.
Right. We got together and, oh, how you doing? All this kind of stuff. I'm really not doing well.
Yeah.
Like I am totally vulnerable. I'm open to being vulnerable to people. Like
Yeah.
I'm not doing well. Like if you could just, reach out or send me something funny or forward
Right.
me something or
Right.
just something that would really help me.
Right.
Nothing. I'm like, I don't know. I
Well,
don't know.
and the thing is, you don't understand when somebody reaches out like yourself and say, "This is what I need," especially for you, that basically this non-response that they're doing reinforces what your dad said,
Exactly. Exactly.
and that's what goes on. And then you go, "It's me," and so the lack of vulnerability in your position, you're going, why? Why do I need to be vulnerable? Because when I ask for help or when I want something to do something, it's just I don't get it.
Right.
So then it creates an isolation.
Right. Then I feel worse
Yeah,
than if I just wouldn't have asked,
yeah,
you know? And so, and then I had a couple of friends here and there come and help out.
right.
And like one of them, she's been my best friend forever. And
Mhm.
she came and she spent half the day with me and I really appreciated it. She was busy, so she had to work the whole time.
Yeah.
Totally fine.
Hmm.
I just needed someone to maybe help me make a sandwich if I
Right.
got hungry or,
Right.
whatever. And after that, I like never heard from her. Never. I think this last April, she may have sent me a text about something, and it just was like, it just felt like abandonment.
Yeah, I get it because there's no connection. There's no emotional connection when
Yeah,
someone texts you. Because there's times in my life that I go, there's no emotional connection here. You're not
right,
connecting with me. And
right,
it's almost like, are you doing this out of obligation?
right.
And stuff like this. So then so you've been through this. So uh, the Cushing disease is completely healed now, right?
Um,
No, it's not,
no,
because it came back, right?
yes.
Okay. Now, when you found out the Cushing disease came back,
Mm,
how in the world do you respond to that? Because you just went through all this crap in the last 2 years. I think you were telling me in our discussions that you would watch a movie, not know what you watch. You would talk to Joel and say, Joel, how was I in these 3 or 4 months? Because I don't remember any of it. And he said, you just sat there because you were suffering in pain, and going all this. You don't have enough energy to do the hook thing. You don't have this. I mean, it's just, and then you're on the road to recovery. And then when did the doctor say to you, and I'm not meaning to laugh, I'm just going, this is sad.
okay.
It's almost to the point. Do you just go, enough's enough, God? This is time out.
Yeah.
you know, because you must look at other people like I do
Mhm.
and say, how blessed are you to walk in Costco, to do something that you take for granted? For me, how blessed are you to hold a cup of coffee
Mhm.
and walk around and not shake?
Mhm.
And I go, how do you, I just look at people like that and I'm totally in envy.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, if I had your life, I would be so stinking happy.
Mhm.
Do you get like that? Or is it just me?
I
Because I'm so shallow.
no, I get like that. I
Okay.
get like that a little bit differently. I think I was okay. Cushing's part one.
Right.
I knew
Right.
it was a part one.
Yeah.
And then, well, what happened is because, they cut the tumors out, they look at the margins
Right.
and they said they got all of it.
Right.
So just like you would with cancer.
Right.
Is there anything left? No, great. Then it shouldn't come back.
No. Yeah.
So I thought it would never come back. And so I started having, I'm still recovering all this stuff,
Mhm.
but I started having a lot of really weird muscle weakness
Mhm.
and just lack of energy. And the first thing I started thinking is like, oh my gosh, this whole time at Cushing's, did I also have an underlying medical issue that we didn't identify?
Right.
So I started thinking like muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis. I think
Oh,
that's how you say those. So I started really freaking out.
mhm.
And before I even, voiced I voiced my symptoms, but not my thoughts about what this could be to my doctor. He
Right.
was already proposing that we start doing all this testing, I think it's called myopathy,
Okay.
myopathy testing for your muscles and to test for all these
Right.
things. And so I was like scared out of my mind because I'm thinking my muscles are eventually going to give out. I'm going to die, or I'm going to end up, in a wheelchair. And, I've played sports my entire life. I've always been super independent, very physically strong,
Right.
like just physically capable.
Mhm.
And so when I then went to a different doctor for a follow up on Cushing's,
Mhm.
she was like, I think your Cushing's was back. I was like,
Oh,
praise God.
really?
Yes,
Okay.
really. Because I was like, I don't want these other
Right.
terrible
Right.
things. Like,
So in a sense, you're going, oh, this is cool. Instead of, you went to worst case, now you could be stuck in a wheelchair. You just, that's interesting that you had that. It's like, oh, okay.
I mean, it really was a relief. And so I was like, okay, great. let's just do it, get it done, and whatever. I'm not happy about it, but whatever. And but what's happened is they've done all the testing. Yes, your
Mhm.
cortisol's really high. Your
Right.
Cushing's is back. They did an MRI, but they don't see a tumor. So there's nothing at this point that they can actually do to cure the Cushing's.
Because they don't know where it's coming from or how it's.
Right. And so now it's like, okay, so do I just slowly have all my cells destroyed and wither away until
Yeah.
hopefully a tumor pops up that you can cut off? I
Yeah.
mean,
I'm sorry, Hannah. You know, yeah. Okay. So let me do this. I think you were telling me, we talked 2 days ago. You were telling me, I thought you were saying that yesterday or tomorrow you were going to see a doctor.
mhm.
Was it? Did you still have that appointment?
Yeah, I'm trying to think which one. I go to doctors almost every day.
Yeah. I
Um,
think it was about the Cushing thing,
yes.
about how to do the treatment or whatever. I
Yes.
can't
And
remember.
so my doctor was going to meet yesterday
Right.
with a bunch of other specialists
Okay.
about my case specifically to see what we should do next or what can be done. And I haven't
Right.
heard back from her yet.
Okay. So let me do this. I went on your Facebook
Hmm.
and I saw uh, this post and I thought, okay, explain this to me. Because it's this post here.
Hmm.
Uh, when you're in a dark place, you sometimes tend to think you've been buried. Perhaps you've been planted. And basically it says bloom.
Hmm.
So, it's funny because you see these posts and you go, oh, that's nice. But this one was like, oh, this is deep.
Yeah.
Because I know Hannah's story. Okay. So tell me the depth. Tell me when you were posting this, it's almost like a choice that you have now.
Hmm.
Whether, right?
Hmm.
It's like you can't deal with, you can't, how would you say, agree to have, yeah, let me have Cushing disease, but you can learn how to respond differently to it. And the same thing with me. When I had my brain surgery, and October 7th, when they turned this on, and I still shook.
Hmm.
It was just like, are you serious? All this for what? You know?
Hmm.
And so talk to me. How does someone like yourself
Hmm.
go through this Cushing disease, and now you have a whole nother, okay, I got to do this again.
Hmm.
But they don't even tell me how to remove it or how to do anything because the tumor's not there.
Hmm.
So it's almost like, okay, if you have any control issues, they're gone now.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
And so when somebody's listening to this podcast, they'll feel for you. I get it. But how, if they're going through a difficult time, how does somebody remain encouraged, remain steadfast, remain faithful to their calling? Because this goes back to your own thing, like that word God gave you,
Hmm.
you know, is it still good? Is that
Hmm.
word still there?
Hmm.
Uh, did you say, I didn't mean to sign up for this? This is way too long, you
Right.
know? Uh, Let me in your head. How do you deal with this? How are you dealing with this?
Well, it's interesting because I learned early in my, this sounds like it's not related, but it is.
Okay.
I learned early in my career
Okay.
that if if I was going through something tough at work,
Right.
the sooner that I could figure out how to correct it or make it better, or basically what was this I was supposed to learn from this
Mm-hmm.
and then learn it and apply it
Right.
quicker, I would get through the hard time.
Right. Okay.
So I was like, okay, this is how I'm going to handle things. I don't want to go through this. So
Right.
what do I need to learn? What's happening? And what do I need to do? And then
Yeah.
poof, done, on to the next.
Yeah.
And that has really helped me in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, hearing the word was encouraging to me because I felt like, okay, I'm supposed to share this with people,
Right.
right? I don't know exactly what aspect or who it's going to help, or I don't think it's an interesting story at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, but I was like, okay. And I, I also, um, I haven't posted anything on the broad Facebook about the Cushing's disease or
Right.
brain surgery or anything because, I'm on my own now. I do coaching and consulting,
Right.
and I've learned that people will make decisions for you. So if I'm trying to get work and coaching or, training on something,
Mm-hmm.
people will go, oh, she's got Cushing's. I know she's having a tough time. I don't want to bother her.
Right.
She needs to rest. Where I maybe was okay to push through, right?
Right.
And so I kept it private for that reason, right? So I could still get work and things like
Right.
that. And then I posted a couple things here and there just about like medical stuff in
Mm-hmm.
general. And a few people started reaching out to me. And it was interesting because they only know a couple of my medical things.
Right.
Let's say 2%.
Okay.
So really nothing. And they're like, you should really write a book about this. And I was like, who's going to read this book? Like, that sounds like a miserable book, like torture. I don't know.
Yeah.
And, then people like responded to that.
Mm.
And they're like, yeah, you should write a book. You should write a book. And then my doctor out of nowhere was like, you should really think about writing a book about your medical journey. And I was same kind of laughed and went, okay. And he's like, no,
Right.
I'm serious and I'll help you write it.
Mm.
I'm thinking, okay. So I keep getting this from like completely different sources that don't know other people are saying it.
Right.
And I get, I had the word from God, um and now I'm going through this again. And so part of it, what I'm wondering is, okay, learning wise, did I not learn the first time, like, you were supposed to share this with people?
I don't think that's the case. But yeah, however, whatever encourages you. But let me, final question. Okay.
Yeah.
What would be the title of the book?
Kevin, you're totally screwed.
Yeah. Okay. God bless. You're totally screwed. Yeah, that's it. You're totally screwed. That's it.
With your brain surgery, you're just screwed.
No,
I had to say that because of comes back.
that's funny. But anyway, no. Would you have a no? Seriously, would you? That wouldn't sell books.
No,
You're totally screwed.
I don't think I'd ever have a book. I think that I would tell my story through a lot of little digestible podcasts or videos or something more interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, well, the reason I want to interview you is because I think it's an incredible story and I can connect to it. And I think everyone can connect to your story because your story represents hope. And what it also represents also too is disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
And where do we have our hope in? Because if we have our hope in not having a tremor anymore, my whole hope was that one day I can serve community.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
And now it doesn't mean it's not going to happen because they're adjusting it, and it takes 3 to 6 months. So I might be able to, but I just don't have my hopes in that.
Right.
particular healing. My hopes is in Christ alone.
Mhm.
And that's where my hope is. And so I always have to say, my tremor and the things that I go through, I did the best I possibly could do with the wisdom that was given to me, but it's really in his hands.
Mhm.
And how I'm going to do it is, do I make joy today? Do I have joy today?
Mhm.
And I have these moments in life that I go, it's a good moment,
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
days, they're moments.
Right.
So anyway, well, thank you so much for letting us listen to your story. And if you want to buy Hannah's book called Kevin, This Sucks, it's on Amazon.com. So
Nobody would forget the name.
no, that's true. So God bless you and have a great time. If this was meaning for you and you thought somebody could really listen to it, please share it as a podcast. Okay. God bless you. Bye-bye.